All right, thank you everyone for attending today's Tech Tools in the Classroom featuring Office 365 demo. Today we have Michael Mason, who's one of our Senior Business Transformation Center engineers, and Katie Shaner, who is the Channel Account Specialist for Microsoft Education. Katie, if you'd like to kick us off with a few words, then we'll have Mike get into the demo.
Thanks, Lauren. Thank you everybody for joining today. Really looking forward to Mike's presentation on some of the key tools for Microsoft in Education. Thanks, Mike.
All right. So I'm Mike Mason, and here we go. We could have called this a lot of different things, but we ended up calling it Tech Tools in the Classroom. Probably should say featuring Microsoft Office 365, or really just featuring Microsoft mostly. But let me go ahead and start moving around here. So this is what we're looking to talk about today. So one, I'm going to actually give you a little background first on kind of what the Business Transformation Center is, and that's kind of where we're providing this webinar from. And then essentially what we're going to do is we're going to go over some products and features, and then we're going to sort of demonstrate each product as we go along. So I just got a handful of, introduce kind of this product and solution, maybe go over some use cases, and then try to give a really quick demonstration of it. So if there's any one particular item, for instance, somebody wanted a longer demonstration on, we could do a full form. This will just be quick, get a good idea of what something is, see if you're interested, and then we can go further down. Then after that, I'm just going to rest, okay, if that's okay with everybody at the end. All right, so the Business Transformation Center, located in lovely Buffalo, New York. Essentially, we've had a data center here for many years, and what we do is we give demonstrations and we do enablement activities for our partners. And what we've done recently in the launch of the Business Transformation Center is we created some rooms that highlight some different vertical markets. So in this case, we have a room for education with the orange chairs up in the left-hand corner. There's a retail space and a healthcare space. Okay, so we have varieties of different products and solutions in all those spaces, and it's really there for our partners and our internal associates just to see the full breadth of solutions that Ingram Micro has. Now, a couple of highlight items in the classroom, since we're talking about education here, is we have whiteboard technologies, right? So as we do things with Microsoft Education, we leverage other products, right, to get the full solution or to see other interesting ways. So a couple different sort of whiteboarding solutions that we have. One from InFocus called the J-Touch would be a nice low cost, where you can do wireless screen sharing, whiteboarding, casting to devices for students, as you see on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we also have the Epson BrightLink products, which can just be a very large display, and it could be touchscreen either on a wall or a traditional whiteboard. Okay, so it's hard to see in this picture in the upper right here, but this is the layout we have, which is two displays projecting down with laser projectors. It gives lots of different possibilities to have students up in front of the class. Okay. Other things that we try to do in the center are kind of show our partners to, look sideways at different solutions. Okay, so one of those solutions would be Ergotron as an example, right, in a classroom. So many partners don't think about, for instance, selling furniture, right? But we have these Ergotron devices. They're very popular in classrooms, and they help sort of this new age of learning. A lot of which we're kind of introducing here in this webinar. As you change your classroom, you digitally transform it, okay? And having students have the physical mobility to do those things is a very positive experience. Okay, and then another thing we focus on in the Transformation Center here is completing out the solutions. So best example here, because we're going to, again, do some nice demos in Microsoft Education. Teachers have technology, students have technology, and we're all about making sure you have all the pieces that you need. So a great example is something like this, where you can deliver power, right? So a student can be interacting, but if you can't power out in the classroom with these devices, then it's much more difficult to digitally transform if you're huddled in the corner next to the power outlet. Okay, so we have a variety of different power solutions as well someone can look at in the classroom, including the Bradford juice pictured here. All right, so the way I'm going to start with the Microsoft Education Solutions is really there are two key products that really just focus on well, they don't just focus on education, but they have a nice play in education, right? So, and we're not talking about Word and PowerPoint and Excel. Basically, OneNote has a class notebook, okay? So this is, real basic, a great tool to use for teachers. It integrates with LMS systems, as you kind of see up on the right-hand corner. So like my kids in school use Schoology. And you can integrate the OneNote class notebook with those systems if you've got an LMS system already in place. Okay, so let's just take a quick look. I'm going to be popping in and out of the presentation a few times here. And hopefully I won't get myself confused, as I'm kind of on this one device. I'm the student and the teacher. So I'm going to go to the teacher, and we're going to go to the class notebook. Okay, so in a class notebook, I'm logged into this site, okay, and this is where I can create class notebooks, or I can manage existing notebooks that I have for my class. So just as an example, if I create a class notebook, okay, we can give a name for the class. So I can just say, Calculus 1, period 1, I guess. Okay, and it kind of goes over what it's going to do. Okay, so it actually creates a whole notebook for you that has a collaboration space that has different capabilities for students and teachers, right? So the students can do certain things, and the teachers can do other things. For instance, in the student notebooks, students have access to just their notebooks, and the teacher can actually go into the student notebooks and can actually edit the content, right? So there's places where the students just can view, but the teacher ultimately has control in those circumstances. Okay, so that's just telling us what it's going to do there. It gives me the option to add other teachers into the environment. Okay, and now here it's letting me add the students to my solution here. So I'm just going to add a few students. Oh, I got to add the student that I am. I'm Eleanor, and I'll add one more student here. Okay, so these are going to be the students. Okay, I might paste a whole bunch of students in there, and this is what their tabs are going to look like on their notebook. So all this is pretty much done for you. It's going to give you an idea of what that's going to look like. Okay, so the teacher's notebook is going to show all these different spaces, so they'll be able to see all the students, and the student notebook is just going to see their own notebook. Okay, so just give that a moment to go ahead and create, and then we'll have that notebook. Now, just as an example, I kind of already created one just a few moments ago, and I'll just kind of show that to you real quick so we don't have to slow ourselves down. But I have different spaces, right? So I created a global studies here. Okay, there's a collaboration space, and then there's a content space. Now, in the content space, I added a document for their vocabulary, I guess, right? So the student would go ahead. Now, this is read only to the student, so the students would actually have to go in, take that content, and change it, right? So if I went into the student's OneNote, right, which would be somewhere over here. There we go. So I'm going to open up that notebook. Okay. And then whatever the teacher gave me, so for instance, whatever's in the content library here, I have to wait for it to populate as I just add the link here. There's the vocabulary list that the teacher assigned. Okay, and as you see, I haven't loaded this before on this machine, so it's a little bit slow. And then what I would typically do here is I would just copy this vocabulary list into one of these sections, right? So if it happens to be my homework, I can go ahead and copy it into my homework and then go ahead and work on it, okay? And then from there, the teacher would have the ability to go into a particular student, look at their homework, and grade their homework, okay? So in this case, it looks like I gave them an F based upon their answers. Okay, so it's a preset, it's a give and take where I can go ahead and post assignments, I can have access to files, right? And it's all basically the framework for it is already pre-set up. Okay, so that's OneNote class notebook. So let me jump back into the Prezo here. Okay, the next sort of major product is Microsoft Teams. Okay, so just like OneNote class notebook, this really can be used for any classroom, and it gives you the ability, really at the end of the day, to allow students to communicate, right? Give voices to students, right? There are students that wouldn't normally raise their hands in class, for instance. Gives them a way to answer questions and participate, even if they might not have the personality to react in the class. So really, we're making via technology, right, some of these the ability to learn for all sorts of different students. Okay, so we'll take a look at Teams here. Now, one of the nice things before I get to Teams, in Office 365, there's actually forms that you can go ahead and create. Okay, so sorry about that. These guys are really loud behind me. So we can go ahead and we can create different quizzes. So forms, I can go ahead, like I just created a Harry Potter quiz, and you can quickly build out quizzes of different types in that environment. Okay. So then when I'm inside of Teams, okay, so here's my Teams app, I can go ahead and create assignments, right? So Teams is a great way to communicate with each other, right? Share files with each other. You can tie the OneNote class notebook into it. But in this example for Teams, I'm going to go ahead and we can click on assignments. I am the teacher, yep. Okay, I can see assignments that were due. I can also create assignments. Okay, if I click on sort of new quiz, right, it lets me grab, for instance, in this case, the Harry Potter quiz that I created in forms, again, very easily, okay, and then assign that to the students. Okay, and then I have ways to review that and grade it as well. Okay, so the mixture of using Teams and Forms and OneNote. Okay, these are just all different ways you can use the Microsoft tools in the classroom, really in any classroom, to collaborate, grade stuff, okay, integrate with your LMS systems. As you see in here, I'm kind of getting updates as we go on assignments and things like that. All right. So the next piece here, we're going to go ahead and, really one of the major things we want to talk about is the Microsoft Learning Tools. Okay, a lot of times these are tools that are just in Windows 10. A lot of times these tools are actually free. And it's just about knowing about these tools and being able to utilize these tools. Okay, so Microsoft has so many tools, it's actually very difficult to actually cover them all. So for instance, if I click on this particular link, and I should probably, I can share the collection of links at some point here, but Microsoft has this particular site, which if I just start scrolling down, okay, this is built-in Sway, which is in itself an Office 365 tool. This shows all the different tools that are available, okay, that are accessibility tools, right, for inclusiveness, for learning, that you can leverage in a classroom. So there's stuff all over the place, all sorts of different possibilities with all sorts of terrific features. Okay, so let me jump back in my prezo here. Okay, I do actually have this link here as well. This is just a nice testimonial. It'll be included in the links that are associated with this particular training. Okay, it's a testimony about using the Microsoft Learning Tools. It's actually very short, but I think it's pretty powerful as far as how you can use these tools and how they can affect students. Okay, but when we talk about learning tools, we're really talking about inclusiveness in the classroom, right? So not every student's the same, right? Students don't want to stand out, as you see with the quote at the bottom here, and we want to ensure accessibility to all the students, right? The ability for all the students to actually learn. Okay. Now, included this link. Essentially, there are studies relating to learning tools. And again, that's the link to a full report about, hey, students in the classroom using these tools, are they beneficial? Are they not beneficial? In this case, they certainly are. And the full report is there. It's a PDF document that you can go through on that link. All right, so now the actual learning tools that we just referenced here, one of the most common ones is actually Immersive Reader. Okay, so as you see on the bottom right, this student is actually using a highlighter, right, for them to sort of focus on a line and focus on words, right? So they move it down the page so they don't lose their place, right? It changes it a different color so it's easier for them to visually identify it. Okay, so different students need these things to be able to read the content that's given them. Okay, so Immersive Reader, which is built into a bunch of different applications, allows you to sort of intake the content, right? So students that might not be able to maybe lose their place in line, have difficult comprehending things, can leverage a product like Immersive Reader. Okay, so for a demo of that, I will show it. So usually what I like to show is there's a nice app called Office Lens. Okay. And if I sort of share my screen here, okay, this is my Android phone, okay, and you could go to Office Lens, and this does a nice job of actually taking a picture. It could take a picture of a document, it could take a picture of a whiteboard, things like that. So I can actually take a picture, okay, notice it kind of cropped the picture, faked it around, and then I could actually have this picture and just send it to OneNote, or I can actually run the Immersive Reader right from here. Okay, I generally prefer where I just send it to OneNote. Okay, but in certain circumstances, it might make sense to go ahead and just pop it in Immersive Reader here, and you could change the text and the layout and read a document much easier. Okay. And what I will do is show that content is show my existing notes here. So this is a separate picture I took. This is of if anybody wants to guess the book right away. This is from Great Expectations, right? So I just took this picture from the book, right? So instead of actually going ahead and reading this, right? And this is kind of an older book. It actually is a little yellow like that. And not the easiest thing to maybe read for some people, right? I just don't have that kind of ability. So I can leverage the Immersive Reader here in OneNote, okay, and just take this picture of a document, as an example, and it'll essentially OCR the document and break it out for me and give me a lot of tools to make it easier for me to look at this document. Okay, so I'll kind of go through some of these tools in Immersive Reader real quick. So I can control some of the text size. Okay, I can make it tighter or wider, right? I can change the fonts. Maybe one font, just appeals to me more, right? And I could change the layout, right? So my eyes, this might be better, okay, or this might be better. Okay, it just kind of depends on you, and that's basically the idea. Okay, and then I could, might be for some people to read, right? Breaking up the syllables can be useful, and here I'm just also identifying the nouns. Maybe I want to identify the verbs, right? So I'm trying to get a feel for what's happening. Maybe to see descriptive language, right? I want to see all the adjectives, and I could actually change the colors on these things too. So if for whatever reason I want the adjectives to all show up as purple, I can do that and click on them. Okay. The nouns is blue. The other thing you just saw with me clicking on the word is that there is a picture dictionary, right? So if I go ahead and I'll click on something that has, there we go, a tongue as part of the picture dictionary, right? So maybe there are certain things that you're not quite sure what they are, or maybe a different language is your first language, and you want to be sure. Okay, you can kind of look through the picture dictionary to see what's there. Okay. Okay. Brothers. All right. Now the other thing, we initially showed the picture of the student holding the highlighter, right? You can do the same thing on here, right? So if I need to focus one line at a time, I can go ahead and highlight it, okay? And I could also do 3 or 5 lines at a time with the line focus. Okay, and then after all that, what I can do if I needed to is go ahead and play it, right? So I can change whether it's a male or female voice, I can change the speed, and I could just go ahead and play the actual file and listen to it, okay, instead of actually reading it myself. All right, let's take that off. All right, so I'll jump out of Immersive Reader, okay, but Immersive Reader could be part of Word, it could be part of actually a lot of different applications now. Okay, that's just launching it out of OneNote there. All right. All right, another one I'll show you real quick is there's just a feature called Editor. Okay, so might be somewhat familiar with, just be looking like a spell check essentially, right, inside of a Word document. This does a little bit more and gives you a little bit more control though. But in the end of the day, it's a nice feature just to help you become a better writer, right, focus on your actual writing. So if I look at my document here, right, I wrote some stuff, right, and there's a couple of different kinds of underlines in this, right. So I essentially chose the spelling and grammar link, right, and the editor pops up on the side. So if I click under this misspelled word, okay, is it changing, is it charging, okay, I can read what each of those means and make the appropriate change. Okay, if I click here where it's a grammar, right, I use the wrong word, effects instead of effects, right, or there. Other ones could be, hey, I don't have a comma where I should, or I do have a comma where I shouldn't. Okay, and then so that's grammar, and the other is just again recommending on something else, clarity and conciseness, right? So if I click on here, I can actually change what some of those are, right? So if I don't want words expressing uncertainty, right? Maybe I do want that, right? If I'm writing something and I want to sound positive and assured. If I want to look out for the Oxford comma, okay, you can basically control which kind of grammar and refinements it's looking for as you go through this as well. Okay. All right, so that's the editor piece. Actually, another little thing that I use is you can track changes as well. So as I make changes to this document, I can just click here, and it just shows me all the changes that I've made over time in the document. All right, so the next one is translator. Okay, so again, inclusiveness, right? You have students that speak different languages as you give a presentation. Okay, so as I give a prezo, okay, and again, it's in different apps. I'm going to show you the demo of the one in actual PowerPoint. You can have it essentially have subtitles in the prezo, and then the students can have their devices. They can join along and listen to whatever language. You can actually have like up to 100 languages in the same room, right, with each student with their own device, listening in their own language. Okay, so what you essentially do is if I pop out of this, I can hit slideshow, and I can hit start subtitles. Okay, now the first thing is it's going to ask what language you're speaking. Okay, and this is essentially just a free plugin to PowerPoint. Okay, and just does require Windows 10 essentially, Windows 8 or later, not Windows 7. And there's all these different languages I can display subtitles in and go from English to that language. Okay, so I can say English to English if it's just for students that might not listen or maybe need that extra little bit of encouragement, right, by seeing the words that you're saying up on the screen. Okay, or if you want to go to another language, you could choose that as well. Okay, I'll choose English here and go ahead and hit start subtitles. Okay, good morning. All right, so you'll see at the top of the screen, it is writing down everything I say. Wonderful. Now, the only thing it won't write down are curse words, right? So if I went, holy shit, okay, it blocks that out, right, which is enjoyable, but not that they didn't hear you, I suppose. Now, the better part of this, you would basically keep going through your presentation. It would keep translating for you, but the actual student, okay, can be on their own terms for the translation. Okay, so if I go back to my phone device, and I'm a student, and I could go ahead and choose the Translator app. And one of the choices in this app from Microsoft is to go ahead and join a particular conversation, right? So if I'm looking at the actual subtitles here, there's actually a code or there's actually a QR code that I could have typed in, okay? And really, if anybody were online right now, they could technically join the conversation with just this link, okay? But I am going to type this into my phone, okay, and then join, and then I can get whatever I'm saying translated into whatever language I choose here, okay? And I could choose whatever language is listed there, and they do come out with language updates. So if the language isn't there now, it might be there in the future. And now as I am talking, what would happen on this application is that you would get a translation, not only the translation that you're getting in English on the screen, you would get a translation on the student device as well. Okay, so whether that's a Chromebook or a Windows device, any of those things, I would see those presented on my device. Okay, let me get back to where I was. Oh, there I am with Translator. Okay, and if I just kind of unmute it here. And yeah, we would see the different translations that happened on my device. Okay, and this device is getting the translations in German. Okay. All right, so I am going to stop all of that. Okay. And I'm going to end my translations here so I can continue on without having to look at what I say. All right. Uh-oh. It looks like I have a blank slide here. I guess somebody's unprepared. Actually, why don't I use a feature called dictation to go ahead and get moving, right? It's a little scary to see an empty page and a little difficult to maybe start creating and to start writing. if you're not sure what to type, there's a little pressure to go on. So using something like the dictation feature might be an easy way for me to start, right? So you can use this in Word, you can use this in PowerPoint, but if I go ahead and choose Start, dictation. Oh, here, let me try that again. Dictation. Okay, that's better that time. Add the salt before you fry the egg. Next line. Think of great things to say when you do the demonstration. Next line. Okay, so, and I will now stop. So you can essentially use the dictation app to sort of get going, get ideas down quickly in whatever different app that you're using that leverages the dictation. Okay, and as you see, it can add punctuation, or I could say the word exclamation point and things like that, and we can get that in. Okay, so dictate is an extra feature that you could add. It's a download, it's a plugin, and these are some of the things that it helps you work on in a school environment. Okay, so I think it's the best way to really get started. You're not sure how to start on maybe a story, or you're brainstorming, and it's a way to get that stuff in writing, and then you could use it as you go inside your stories. Okay, it's a great feature for students that might not be sure how to start their story or how to end their story. Okay, as I'm finishing up here, the last one I'll love to mention that we like to highlight in our class, certainly if we get kids and sort of bring your kids to work day here in the Business Transformation Center, right? The game I go to is Minecraft, right? So part of the Office 365 Education Edition is Minecraft. So Minecraft is a great way for students to learn different things, right? So they can play, you're playing a game, but the game could rely on teamwork, right? The teacher can sort of manage those spaces. Like if I click play, the teacher can create different worlds. I wasn't sure if I was on the real game here. There I am. So if I click create a new world, okay, there's all sorts of different lessons plans available and different templates that are created, right? So there's ones that relate to chemistry. There's one that relates to building out code, right? But so there's direct learning ones like that, but there's preset lessons for teachers. Students can work together to build a bridge, and the teacher can introduce a flood, for example, right? And see, which students are able to work together and recover from those kinds of situations. Okay, so those are the things that are available in Minecraft Education Edition. Okay, I won't try playing in front of you though. All right, and then let's see what else we got. So all the learning tools that are there, this is just sort of a quick breakdown. Don't try to memorize it, of all the different places that you would see a lot of these tools, right? So not every tool's in every single space, because you get to Immersive Reader, there might be something slightly different between the OneNote version and the version in Word, for example. Okay, and where it's available, right? So the dictation app dictation app, for example, I can use in my emails, right? If I'm using Outlook as a desktop client, okay, it works great. Okay, and then another app that I'm not going to demo because I run an Android. This is just for Apple, but it's really interesting. It was in that Sway document as well. It's called Seeing AI. Okay, so for somebody that has trouble seeing, right, or somebody who's just blind, this is a Microsoft application available on iOS Apple devices that can essentially read either short phrases, give some characteristics about the world around you, okay, by using the app. So if I just essentially took the iPhone and put it over a short phrase, it would just read that phrase for me. I wouldn't have to hit another button. As soon as it sees the phrase in the camera, it would read that. If you can see in this picture here, it's kind of identifying the young lady there. It says 25-year-old woman with black hair looking happy, okay, in the document. Okay, so it's using AI to do that. Okay. If I was in a store, it can actually scan the QR code or the barcode on the device. I guess it'd be a barcode more likely. Let's say I find a pack of batteries. I'm not sure what kind they are because I can't see very well. I scan it, and it would actually read me the information from the scan. Okay, so it's an interesting thing to just give a try. It's a free application in the Apple Store. Right, and I'll finish it out with all these different tools. Really particularly the OneNote and the Teams, which have really a ton of different features. There's plenty of training material available, and one of the best places to start would just be education.microsoft.com. Okay, where you earn badges. There's classes. It's watching a lot of video. And kind of going through and seeing what these different solutions are. Okay, so comes highly recommended as a way to see what different things you could do with all of these tools. Okay, so with that, that is the end of what I've prepared for today. So thank you for your time. Keep in mind that in the Business Transformation Center, we essentially provide demonstrations on really on varieties of different products, including some of the stuff we saw today, which, as I mentioned, could happen in a longer form if necessary.
Thanks so much, Mike, for your time today. We really appreciate it. And again, for those of you who would like to set up a virtual tour or deeper dive engagement, please email us at businesstransformationcenter@ingrammicro.com, or for short, btc@ingrammicro.com. Thanks, everyone, for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lauren.